Hello, everyone. I'm your host today. My name is Caroline Colas, and I'm the Senior Director of Health and Wellness at the Marlene Meyerson JCC Manhattan. Today on the Positive Psychology Hour, a series that we do in partnership with the Whole Being Institute, we're going to be talking with Hanna Perlberger. Who am I really? With the Jewish holidays behind us, and as we start the cycle of Torah anew, it's a good time to evaluate where we are now and where we are headed. In the opening verses of Besheret, Genesis, God asked the first question in recorded history, where are you? This question is not about location, but identity. In essence, God was framing an existential question. Who are you that you want to hide from your Creator? Our identity doesn't exist in a vacuum. It is inseparable, intertwined, and interconnected with who we are as spiritual beings in relationship. The Whole Being Institute SPIRE, which stands for Spiritual, Physical, Intellectual, Relational, and Emotional model, takes a holistic approach to happiness. This webinar will utilize the cognitive psychological tool Johari's window to explore identity at the intersection of the two of those elements, spiritual, which in this case is mindfully engaging in a meaningful life, and relational, nurturing a constructive relationship with self and others. A little bit about Hanna. She's been on the Positive Psychology Hour before. We're just delighted to have her back. She was a family law attorney for 20 years, and she's an alumni and former faculty member of the Whole Being Institute Certificate in Positive Psychology program. Fascinated by the connection she saw between positive psychology and Judaism, she sought out tools to help her connect more deeply and authentically to her observance, which made the Torah come alive for her in a new and personal way. Her blog, Positive Parsha, evolved into the book A Year of Sacred Moments, The Soul Seeker's Guide to Inspired Living. She is launching, I'll let her tell you a little bit about it, her project to help Jewish couples and singles learn how to build a peaceful home from the ground up, going beyond traditional matters of the heart to support individuals in the cultivation of inner peace, resilience, and positivity during challenging times. And we certainly are in challenging times. Welcome to the call, Hanna. Let me highlight you. I'm so glad you're here. We had such a fun time kind of warming up this morning.
And do.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about this project.
Oh, the Shalom Bayit project?
Yes.
Well, actually, you know what? It's kind of weird. I've been a divorce attorney. It's actually closer to 30 years. Like I can't believe it. It really is closer to 30. And I certainly have a lot of experience in what blows marriages up. And really with the rise in the divorce rate in the Jewish community, I really thought I want to take my experience. I want to take my skills. I also for the last 10 years have been doing coach training and really put them together and try to help people, learn how to stay together, and not just for couples, but for singles, to learn what would really work for them, is what are the ingredients of a marriage that will last a lifetime. And lastly, Shalom Bayit, it's really a very personal journey. It's the relationship that we have with ourselves, the relationship we have with our Creator. Everything is about relationships. So it's really, it really is like a very broad umbrella for me to, stand under and play with.
Yeah, and we're talking about that today, right? Who am I? What a great question to ask. And I feel like the certificate in positive psychology certainly helped me talk about my different selves. We learn about the different selves. It just was a way, positive psychology has been a way for me to reconcile all aspects, the positive and the negative. Tal Ben Shahar says, right, that positive psychology is about reality, reality, reality.
Beautiful.
Right?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought in also being the negative. People have such a misunderstanding of positive psychology. They think it's just like putting on your happy face all the time. And we're going to get into something that could be felt a little bit negative in this webinar. So thanks for setting that up. Perfect.
Awesome. So I'm going to let you take it away. I know Phoebe's in the background, our own Phoebe, who's our curator of our series. And we have a wonderful slideshow today for you as well.
And something just happened when you did that. That messed me up. Let me try to move this.
Take a moment just to get yourself sorted if you need it.
I'm good. I'm good now. Okay. So we don't need the slide quite yet, unless you just want to look at this really cute little hot car. But we're gonna get to it. So again, so thank you for having me on this positive hour, positive psychology hour again. Like it was like last Hanukkah that I came on. I can't believe that that was like a whole year ago. It seems like it was a minute ago. On the other hand, this lecture, which was supposed to have been last week, was supposed to be like the day after the Jewish holidays. I feel like the Jewish holidays were like such a long time ago. It's hard to like, it was really just a week ago that they were ended. Anyway, so we are, last week, we started with the Torah reading of Bereshit or Bereshit, which was the creation of the world. This Saturday, we are going to move into the Torah reading of Noach, which is about the destruction of the world. So right now we stand poised between the creation of the world and the destruction of the world, right? Which is a perfectly fine place to be. So I'm going to start off with a personal story. And here's like the backstory to my story. And I know that there are women who, when they're sitting in a business meeting and they cross their legs, the belt buckle of their shoes are not going to rip holes in their stockings. I know there are women when they're walking out the door for a presentation, their skirt is not going to catch on the doorway they've gone out, thousands of times and literally rip their clothes from their body like a vaudeville scene or something. And I also know that there are women who, if they are giving a lecture to a group of very well-heeled women in Southern Florida, they're going to have a manicure the day before. So these women are not going to go to CVS, the night before buying nail polish and nail polish remover. These women are not going to be attempting to give themselves a manicure in the morning. These women are not going to be knocking over the bottle of nail polish remover onto their notes, dissolving their notes, and dissolving the finish on the nightstand. Okay. I know that there are women who are like that, where these things don't happen and there's no shame in it, but I'm just not one of those women. Because for me, it's like the harder I try to be a grown up, the harder I try to look professional, the harder I try to just like look like I have it going on, the universe just messes with me. It's just the way it is. It's just how I roll. And so when it doesn't happen, it's such an exception that I remember it. And so I remember the day that the universe didn't mess me up. It was April of 2019, and I had to give a business presentation, and it was this person in their office, and they were like an hour away. And I remember it's April 2019, and Philadelphia is very famous for having very late cold springs. It's like we get like a little hint of warmth, and the trees go, "Oh, great, it's spring," and they'll bud and everything like that. And 5 days later, like ice storm, But that's what Philadelphia springs are like. So this was like the first day where it's like sunny and beautiful, and I'm driving to this location. So now you can hit the slide, and the first slide is the first slide coming up? There you go. So this is my car, and I thought this is a gorgeous day. It's a scenic road. I'm going to drive top down, which means I had to, get my sunglasses. All right. So I get in the car, and to my surprise, I got a full tank of gas. Right. That doesn't normally happen. Usually I get someplace and like it's on empty. So full tank of gas, like check. Right? I'm leaving my house in plenty of time. Also not like me, I have a time management problem. If I have to be someplace and it's an hour away, I usually leave 45 minutes at a time and just drive like crazy. Not today, not today. Universe was smiling at me. I got out the door, my clothes didn't, rip off my body or anything. I'm in the car, full tank, plenty of time. Okay, I don't get lost. I find a parking spot literally right in front of the office. Now, this wasn't so amazing because I happen to have a superpower, and my superpower is that I can get parking spots anywhere, but still it was cool. And the meeting was in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. I don't know if people know that little borough, but it's very quaint. And they have parking meters. Okay, they don't, no app that you can like do on the phone, no machine to get a ticket. The parking meters take quarters only. Well, on that day, I had a roll of quarters in my car, like unbelievable, right? I'm now feeling like $1 million, like Hanna, like you have got this. You're on fire. turn off the car, put the top off, take my sunglasses off, and I reach for my regular glasses on the passenger seat. And it's like, what? Wait, where are my glasses? Like, my glasses are in the seat. Maybe they fell off. Maybe they rolled under the seat. So I'm checking under the seat. Now it's a two-seater car. There's no other place it could be. I'm searching the car and I'm realizing I don't have my glasses, right? So now I'm in a little bit of a panic, and it's like, aha, the universe strikes again. I was so close, right? Because I can't see without my glasses. I was so close, and now I have these prescription glasses. And you can do the next slide, because I'm going to show you like the sunglasses I was wearing. Okay, that's me in my Greta Garbo sunglasses. I love those sunglasses, and I have since lost them because, of course, I lose things like that. But on that day, so these are the sunglasses that I'm wearing, and I'm now having to walk into an inter-business meeting with these big sunglasses, and I'm feeling out of control. All that confidence, is just like evaporated. And I'm walking to the office, and there's like a little pathway with little pavers. And as I'm walking on the pavers, like left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot, I'm thinking, okay, lie, don't lie, don't lie. Because I'd come up with this story in my head. Well, just say I had cataract surgery and I have to wear these glasses to protect my eyes from the light. So I'm thinking of the story, and I'm thinking as I'm walking to the office, okay, lie, don't lie, lie, don't lie, lie, don't lie. And then as I was reaching for the door, I said to myself, okay, Hanna, well, are you a liar? Are you a liar? Because if you are, no problem, go for it. But if you're not a liar, well, then the choice is made, right? So what's it going to be? Like, who are you? So we don't need to leave the slide of my cool sunglasses up. So Phoebe, you can just take that down. Thanks. So who are you? And one of the best classes, like when I was in SIP, I remember during the immersion, and Maria Siwa was talking about Viktor Frankl, and I'm sure most of you know who Viktor Frankl is, right? The very famous Viennese philosopher, psychologist, neurologist, but he was a survivor of Auschwitz, and he wrote Man's Search for Meaning. And he boiled it down to this. He says, really, there's just really one question in life, and that's, who am I in the presence of this? Okay, who am I in the presence of this? And that question is not just for being in a concentration camp. It's not just for life or death decisions. It's really a moment by moment inquiry, right? It's life as it is unfolding in the moment. It's when I'm stuck in traffic. It's when I'm waiting for test results. Who am I being in the presence of this situation or any situation? But if I'm asking the question, who am I? That means that I have a choice, right? I have a choice in the matter, right? So in that moment, in that instance, in the presence of that situation, I picked not being a liar as my identity. And once I picked my identity, my behavior followed, right? So it turns out, it's taking me longer to tell you the process than it actually happened in my head. It was really more like that. But it's a great strategy for decision making in a lot of cases, at least for this one, because like we're pulled in many directions all the time when we have decisions to make, right? We have an animal soul, we have a godly soul. We have an inclination to choose wisely and an inclination that pulls us down. And connecting to our highest and best self in the moment, I would say that inclination comes from our spiritual self. So for those of you who are familiar with SPIRE, as Carolyn mentioned in her introduction, it's the acronym coined by WBI, Whole Being Institute, which is my mothership. And the S stands for spiritual, which is engaging in a meaningful life, right? So what is the meaning of your life? What is meaningful to you? So who are you in the presence of this? Connects with your identity, your behavior follows. And from that, the meaning of your life really just plays out in 3D, right? So since we just read a few days ago that first parsha, that first Torah reading from Bereshit, Genesis, in the beginning, so where does this dynamic play out, this question of who are you? So the very first question in recorded history is when God asks Adam, where are you? So where are you? Was this a game of like cosmic hide and seek? Was this like really like come out wherever you are, right? it obviously wasn't about location, it was about identity. And the Alter Rebbe, who was a Hasidic rabbi in the 1700s, explains, where are you means, who are you? And so God was saying, Adam, like, who are you that this was even possible? Who are you that you want to hide from me, your creator? Who are you to think that you can hide from me? Right? So when Adam answered what he had done, and he said he ate of the fruit, he ate the fruit, the English translation is always in the past tense. I ate. That's what the English is, I ate. But in the actual Hebrew text, it's very curious. There's an insertion of a letter, which makes the verb both past and future. Carolyn, we were talking about words that have a double meaning. So this particular word has a double meaning. It means I ate in the future, in the past, and it means I will eat again in the future. So there's a, by the way, when Eve says I ate, past tense only. When Adam says I ate, it also has a double meaning as I will eat, right? So there's a midrash. A midrash is an ancient commentary that says that the deep meaning of this verb that Adam uses twofold, right? So not only did I eat, but if you put me in the same position, I'm going to do it again. I will eat again and again and again, because I'm the apple eating guy, right? So behavior follows identity. I'm the apple eating guy. So this is how I'm going to show up again and again. But it also works in reverse. Okay, so we have identity, behavior follows identity, but also identity can follow behavior. So we could come at it both ways. Adam could say, well, I'm going to be making the same choice again and again and again. I'm going to be eating the apple again and again and again. Well, what kind of person does that? Who does that? Apple eaters, right? So we can either form our identity from our behaviors, or we can choose a behavior based on an identity that we choose. It really works both ways. So one of the problems when we choose an identity based on behavior is that we make mistakes. It's just, we're just wired. We're here to make mistakes and fix them. The problem is that when we make mistakes, and we continue to make mistakes over time, we believe that we are the mistake. See, that's the danger. We believe that we are the mistake. We make our mistakes our identity. And that's where things get very distorted and messed up. But realizing that we can form an identity from behavior, we can be aware of this and conscious of this, and we can use that dynamic for the good, okay? So you're all familiar with the phrase, fake it till you make it. Right. So we want to create a new behavior, a new habit. And at first it feels very unnatural. At first it feels like it's not our identity, but over time we keep doing it and it becomes a habit. And then it said that over time our habits create our identity. So I can tell you that my husband and I, we didn't grow up being observant. We both kind of took it on as a midlife crisis together. And I remember my husband had a conversation with the rabbi about like where he sits us, and he said something like, I don't feel worthy to wear them, or I'm not feeling it yet, and so therefore, like, I don't think that I should be, do I deserve to wear them, or some kind of conversation. The rabbi says something like worthy schmurthy, like, don't overthink it. It has nothing to do with your feelings. Just put them on, just start wearing it. Okay. And so that was like 30 years ago, and he's been wearing them, ever since. So our sages have said this, that if you do a mitzvah, which really means a commandment, mitzvah doesn't mean good deed, mitzvah means commandment. So if you do a commandment for the wrong reason, eventually you'll come to do it for the right reason. So I kind of, instead of just saying fake it till you make it, I really think it should be more like fake it until you become it. And that's powerful. So this fake it till you make it, or forming your identity based on behavior, we see research by Daryl Bem, a psychologist in the 1960s, and he came up with something called self-perception theory. and I think it was actually in 1967, I was reading about this. And he said that people sometimes analyze their own behavior in the same fashion as they would analyze somebody else's behavior. Okay, so a person is interpreting their overt behaviors, how they're, their external behaviors, rationally in the same way that they would attempt to explain other people's behaviors. So when I see somebody help a little lady cross the street, I think, well, that's a nice person. That's how nice people act. Then you help somebody cross the street, you will self-perceive, you will self-identify as a nice person. So the way you characterize somebody else doing this behavior is how you would characterize yourself. Like that's a theory. So next slide, please. There's just a little slide on self-perception theory. There we go. Here the guy goes, I love John Grisham because I read a lot of his books. Well, this is a classic case of self-perception, right? People's attitudes are developed by observing their own behavior. So another factor that shapes our identity and choices is our relationships. And I really think that this is the strongest arena of them all. So we can minimize that slide. That's for now. So has anybody ever watched the show? I don't know if it's on anymore, The Biggest Loser. I don't know if it's still on air. Anyway, and people are always asked, like, what's your motivation for being on the show, for wanting to lose so much weight? And they're probably coached, okay? But when they talk about their motivation, it's not, oh, I want to wear sexy clothes, I want to look great or something. It's relationship driven, right? It's like, I want to live, like, I want to play with my kids. I want to be able to, walk my daughter down the aisle. I don't want to be a burden to my family. It's relationship driven. So we don't want to hurt the people we love. So again, we can look at our identities and say, if I were a loving spouse, parent, friend, sibling, etc., then how would I act in this situation? Sometimes, like as a divorce, divorce lawyer, I'll throw like a little bit of coaching in there without them knowing it, but like coming up with a custody agreement, and they're all about like wanting to be punitive or whatever. And I'm like, if you came at this from being the best parent you could be for your kids, how would you feel about this? So if I were, how would I act in the situation if I were coming from the best version of myself? If I were a hardworking, conscientious lawyer, I would ... If I were self-loving and self-respecting, I would ... Because behavior follows identity and the other way around. So I've been packing school lunches for ever, many years, healthy organic lunches, like in these little bento boxes. I'm sure they traded them out, because who wants organic hummus and carrots and stuff like that? They probably want, PB&J. Anyway, so one day I got a call from my kid's school. You forgot to pack the ketchup for your son's lunch today. And instead of saying, and your point is, like, yeah, okay. I'm like, but I jump in my car and I deliver that organic ketchup to my son, right? So here's my behavior. You know what? Well, what kind of mother does that? I guess I must be a good mom, even though my teenagers think I'm a psycho. Like, I guess, you know what? If I look at my behavior, if somebody else did that, I would say they're a good mom. Maybe I'm a good mom too. So this is internal, and this is us towards them. But how about the other way around? How about the external? How about the way we are treated by others? How about the way that other people perceive us, right? How do their perceptions shape our identity? And how can other people help us become more aware of who we are? So how many people do you know that see you in a more positive light than you see yourself? Like, you get a compliment, and what do? You deflect it, you brush it off, or you deny its truth, because inside you have that little voice saying, you don't really deserve those compliments. Somebody will compliment my chicken. It was really dry. It wasn't so great. We brush off or deflect. We don't believe the positive things that people say about us sometimes, because we believe that voice inside. We think that inner critic is a truth teller, not the person giving us the compliments or saying something nice. No. The inner critic, that's the truth teller. Okay. And that's the problem. So after like 30 years of marriage, my husband still sees me as some kind of like amazing, sexy, beautiful, accomplished, can do anything paragon of womanhood, right? And I'm like, damn, like if I could only see myself through my husband's eyes for like 5 minutes, just give me 5 minutes of that, right? There's no telling what I could do. But I believe that negative voice in my head that probably came from some awful person in my childhood. And I believe that voice more than I'll believe my husband. So that's the problem with the self-perception theory, because if who we think we are only comes from inside of ourselves, we are going to miss a lot of information. And our self-perceptions can be very, very distorted. So we're going to work with this cognitive psychological tool called Johari's window. It was developed by two psychologists, Joseph Luft and Harrington Ingham. This is back in the 1950s. So Johari is a combination of the letters of their names. So can we get that slide up? And it's going to be the fourth slide. There we go. Okay, so Johari's window is a tool to help you understand yourself, your relationship with others, and the impression that others have about you. And it helps you understand if others perceive you like you think they do. So you'll see that there are 4 windows. Okay, the first is the open area. These are things that you know about yourself, and others know this too. The next area is the hidden. These are the things that you know about yourself, but others don't know it. The third is the blind spot, things that other people know about you, but you don't know these things, or you probably deep down you do, but let's just call it a blind spot. And the unknown, the yet to be discovered aspects of you. Neither you nor others know, so that this is the great, area for exploration. So I want to say that traditionally, the exercise that's done around this is usually done in a group setting, or it's done in an organization to help performance or leadership. You can do it yourself, and we are going to do it ourselves in this webinar. But to do the exercise as fully intended, you really need to get the input of other people. And at the end of this, the last slide is going to be a link to a really great website that will walk you through this exercise in depth. Okay, so to do this on this webinar, we're just kind of like came up with a way to do it. So for now, like this is my adaptation. How can we broaden our understanding of our identity through interactions that we've had with other people in the past, or things going on right now in your life? So you can just follow along to get the concepts. I'll take a minute if you want to like grab a piece of paper and just kind of like, make an X like for 4 sections. You can write some notes on a laptop or a phone, or then you can jot them in the chat. So I'll just give you a minute to, grab a phone or piece of paper. So step 1 is that you're going to be making a list of 5 or 6 attributes that you know about yourself, that others know about you as well. So the first box we're going to fill in is the known to self, is the open area. And to help you with some attributes, the next slide is a list of attributes that actually comes from the website that I just got that chart from. And this is a list of mostly positive attributes. Feel free to add your own. Like my strongest attributes or my signature strengths would be like creativity, love of learning. They're not on this list. I didn't want to throw too much at you in this webinar, but there's something called VIA, V-I-A, which stands for Values and Actions. You can go to via.org. Maybe PB, you can like put via.org like in the chat or something. And there's a free online survey. And when you take this, you will discover your top strengths. And it's a very powerful tool for helping you shape identity. But hopefully that was enough time for you to take a look, read over this list, come up with your own attributes if they're not on this list, and come up with like maybe 5 or 6 things that you know about yourself, and you know that other people know about you as well. And so for now, for the purpose of this exercise, because you're not getting feedback from other people, you'll just have to be as, honest as you can, and they will go in that first box under open. And if anybody wants to put in the chat box a few of the things that they listed in their open box, please feel free. And if anybody had like a little bit of surprise just doing this one little piece, like if any of this like sparked like just like a little moment of pride or a little joy, like, hey, like I'm claiming that positive aspect for myself. It's open and revealed. Like, if you want to share that, please feel free to post it in the chat. Let's see. Okay. I realized I was daring. Okay. Inner yearning to do good. Very nice. Okay. Step 2. Now you're going to list some attributes that you know about yourself that are hidden from others, or you think are hidden from others, right? So this can be 5 or 6 or less. This is going to go in the hidden area. These are attributes that you know about yourself, but that are hidden from others, or you think are hidden from others. And you can put them in a box. You can make a list, jot them in your phone, put them in chat, whatever. And Phoebe, I don't know if we want to just like roll back to the next slide that has that chart of attributes if people want to get some ideas. Okay, so you're going to have adjectives in 2 boxes, or you're going to have 2 lists, right? Now, again, it's going to be a little skewed because you're using your own perspective. But what are you noticing about the ratio between these 2 boxes or these 2 lists, right? Are there a lot more in one box or another? So in reading, thanks, Evie, in reading, about this exercise and reading articles about it, there's been like the suggestion that you really want to have the open area, known to yourself and others, to be the biggest. And eventually you want to be able to move things from hidden into the open. And like, I get that. I get that point. But here's my personal take on that line between the open area and the hidden area, that's your personal boundary. And that line should be flexible. So that line should move up or down depending on the person, depending on the relationship, the nature of the relationship, the situation. So if you are a total open book at work, that's TMI, right? That's not appropriate. On the other hand, if you are guarded, or you're closed, or you're hiding a lot of things like in your marriage or your most intimate relationships, that's not appropriate either. So you really have to look, how am I being in the situation? And you want to move that line in a way that works for you and your relationships. So there's a saying that in every relationship or situation, we have both windows and walls, right? So we don't want to put up a wall where there should be a window. And we don't want to put up a window where there should be a wall, right? In any given relationship or situation, what is right for you? But also this, what you will reveal, what you will conceal, what you will reveal to yourself, as well as what we're revealing to other people. It's a dynamic process, right? Intimacy takes time. Discovery takes time. Peeling layers takes time. And self-discovery never ends. That phrase, oh, I just met somebody, I just spent an hour with them, and I feel like I've known this person for my whole life. Stop. No, you haven't known them for your whole life. You haven't known them forever. You've known them for 60 minutes. Okay, there's a difference. I either heard this line, or maybe I came up with it myself. But my favorite definition for marriage is this: it's the gradual unfolding of one soul to another over the course of a lifetime. Okay, the gradual unfolding of one soul to another over the course of a lifetime. Now, that is not part of this lecture per se, but I just love that line so much, I threw it in. I actually hope I came up with it. Anyway, so I think we can like minimize the slide just for a minute. So you see how fluid identity is and how interconnected it is with relationship. That's the R, inspire. Okay, nurturing construction relationships with self and others. And then 3 is the blind spot. What do people know about you that you don't know? And I found this really interesting because I actually saw my blind spots this week. I had an eye exam, like a real complete, eye exam, and they took pictures of my optic nerve. Okay, so, and then they showed me the pictures. So everybody has a spot in their retina where the optic nerve attaches. Okay, in that area where the nerve attaches to your retina, there's no light sensitive cells. So this part of your retina cannot see, right? Makes sense. That's where the nerve connects. It cannot see. That is the blind spot that every eye has. Now, most of the time you don't notice your blind spot. Why? Because the blind spot that my left eye has is not the blind spot that my right eye has. Like, thank you, God. Like, how cool is that? So in people with 2 functioning eyes, what happens is that my right eye is going to fill in what my left eye can't see. My left eye will fill in what my right eye can't see. So I'm going to have one complete picture because my eyes are compensating for each other, right? I just find that fascinating. So the 3rd box, your blind spot, what people know about you that you don't know. Think of other people as filling in your psychological blind spots, right? So I want to start with the positive attributes that you're blind to, or have a hard time seeing, or have a hard time admitting as what is true about you, although you probably know it deep down. Okay, and it's very helpful to get an idea of how other people see you and to be open to the possibility of believing their perceptions. Because if you do this exercise with the right people, if you do this exercise with people you trust, you will get honest feedback. Okay, so if you want to if anybody wants to jot it or put this on your list, what are the positive things that people say to you? What are the compliments that you just hear? You like things that you hear over and over again. Not me, it's not me. If only you really knew, if you really knew the real me, I'm faking it, whatever. Yeah, I come off that way, but like, if only you knew, right? So what are some of the ways that people see you in a positive light that you have had a hard time believing or seeing or accepting as true about yourself? Anybody want to share anything around that? Let's see. I'm not seeing any chat. So Carolyn, if anybody's supposed, biggest heart. Oh, okay. Empathetic. Okay, so I'm going to share my own. Insightful, strong, good mom. I'm going to share my own psychological blind spot. So, just like in the last week or so, I've had some conversations or casual encounters. Normally, I wouldn't have thought twice about it, but because I was thinking about this webinar, I was sensitized to it. So I was noticing that people, like a few times in the last week or so, people were describing me as kind. If I were making my own list of attributes, kind would not be on my list. It's not that I'm unkind. It's just that, I think that there were like really, really nice people out there, people that they're just like topping that kindness chart. They're making 25 challahs a week and they have a whole system of delivering them. And like I don't relate to that. So like, again, not only did I make lunches forever, but I did carpool forever. And I used to have a minivan, okay? Like a minivan. Eventually, I traded in for something like a little bit more stylish. I had a Buick Enclave, but it had 3 rows, so I could seat 7 people, carpool year after year after year. And then when my daughter, my youngest, was in 12th grade, I got that Mini Cooper, like the first slide that you saw, I got that car. And now I'm picking up my daughter at school, or I'm picking up my daughter like from a game, and like there's like some kid hanging around, and it's like, honey, like I would just love to give you a ride home and go 30 minutes out of my way in rush hour traffic. I would, I wish I could, but sorry, two-seater, can't do it, right? It's like, that's the kind of person I really think I am. Like, that's not kind. So when somebody tells me how kind I am, I'm going to deflect it. That's not like, or shh, don't tell anybody, because if this gets around, people think I'm nice, they're just going to ask me to do stuff, and I don't want to do stuff because I'm not kind, right? Does anybody else have that experience, or just like, they admire you, if they only do. So what do you do when somebody has a positive view of you that you don't have? When they see something in you that you don't see, or you're just not comfortable seeing or able to admit for some reason. So you might ask yourself, why am I having trouble accepting this compliment? Why am I having trouble seeing myself this way? Is my version of myself unkind? Is that really true? Is it possible that they have it right and I have the distorted view? Is that possible? And yes, it is, because I'm going to admit, I have a psychological blind spot. So once I do this, and I'm like, you know what, instead of deflecting it, let me just work with this. Like, is it possible that maybe I am kinder, that I'm able to see? Is it possible that in deflecting this, I'm just being really hard on myself? Maybe I'm being very needlessly self-critical. Because if other people see me as kind, and it's a behavior, okay, they're like, not getting into my head, it's a behavior, they wouldn't say it unless I, in fact, have acted kindly, at least towards them. Now, here I can go back and I can use that self-perception theory, because it's true. I do a lot of things for my community. And when I see somebody else doing things in the community, this challah baker or whatever, I think, well, that's a nice person. Like, that's kindness, right? That's chesed. So if I'm going to describe them as kind, if I'm doing things like them, well, then I can use that to identify that for myself. Even if it feels a little artificial, even if it feels a little uncomfortable, right? I'm going to use self-perception theory and with awareness to undo the cognitive distortion that I have going on inside. So you see, like, how what can open up for you when you're able to see how others perceive you. Or maybe you thought, oh, yes, I know I'm kind, but I didn't know anybody else knew that about me, because like I hide it, right? Or you're afraid to show some quality about yourself. But here it is being reflected right in your face. So now this quality that was in your blind spot, or you thought was hidden, here's a cool thing. You can take that quality and now you can put it in your open box. And once it's your open box, it's like, hey, it's out there, right? It's joyful. It's very freeing. So when I can own my own quality of kindness, that opens me up, because I can let that in. I can savor it, right? And savoring is the WBI definition of spiritual. It's not just leading a meaningful life, but it's mindfully savoring the present. So I can look inside and say, well, whose voice inside is telling me that I'm not kind? Is it mine? Or is it somebody living rent free in my head? And the next time I deflect a compliment around kindness, and I probably will, because it's like not a once and done thing, I now have a much deeper awareness. I have strategies, and I can call out that critical news, like fake news. It's fake news. It's fake news. It's not true, right? Now, here's a really, really big thing for me. The more I can own my own kindness, the more I can accept kindness from others. That has been a big challenge for me, letting other people be kind to me. So again, the more I can own my kindness, the more I can accept it from others. So now that I have increased consciousness, like around kindness, and I can, let this thing grow, that would correspond to the E inspire for positive emotions. And I just want to check in with the chat if anybody has.
Yes, Cindy was saying, I've learned to say thank you, then store it away to think about later and figure out why the person thinks about me as that kind of person. And then there's been a bunch of shares about struggling with self-love, deceit, beat myself up. people saying you are so nice. And then Heidi was saying, until I lost a lot of weight, I could not see myself as beautiful, radiant, loving, and kind. And then Lisa was saying, sometimes I even think I'm a fraud.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Right. Right. Okay. Thanks. Very, very, very powerful. But it's a struggle. This exercise will give you some awareness. Again, it's not once and done, but it's like, ooh, like I can see things I didn't see before. Right. So obviously there are, we also have negative aspects in our blind spot, right? The things that people see in us that we don't. It's pretty hard to get honest feedback about our negative qualities, like from the people that love us. It's also hard because it usually could trigger a defensive reaction on our part. Like, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to take that in. And, but this is an area really of tremendous growth. And I was thinking, well, it's called the positive psychology hour. Can I even get into anything negative? But Carolyn, you set it up very beautifully that positive psychology is like reality, reality, reality. But also, I mean, is there anything more positive really than becoming self-aware in a way that empowers you? I mean, like I find that the epitome of positivity. So I'm going to finish this exercise now. Like this is my own way to uncover not just a blind spot, but to do it in a way that will surprise and reveal aspects of yourself. So that fourth box we're going to work in. And some of you have, if you've like been a regular on these things, you've probably done the best self exercise or the best I exercise. So think of this as the unrevealed self exercise. And for that, I'm going to borrow from another modality and bring a little Carl Jung into play. And we're going to do a little bit of shadow work. If you're not familiar with the term shadow or the shadow self, the shadow is the dark side of our personality. Okay, it's in the shadows. The shadow self is everything we deny about ourselves. So anything unacceptable, I think you can minimize the slide, anything unacceptable or incompatible with our chosen conscious attitude about ourselves becomes part of the shadow, right? It's the disowned self. It's the part we don't claim as our own. And we repress these parts and they're just part of our unconscious. And so it's very interesting, like, well, how does that happen? Like, how was the shadow born? So as children, we express, parts of ourselves, but we get negative cues from our environment about that expression of our identity or personality. So traits associated with being good, other traits are associated with being bad or rejected. So the good ones are accepted, the bad ones that are perceived as bad are rejected. Maybe we threw a tantrum and our parents, reprimanded us, sent us to our rooms. Like that's unacceptable. But then anger is unacceptable. Strong emotions are unacceptable. Truth telling can be unacceptable. Maybe we acted boldly, playfully, spontaneously, or silly, like in first grade, and our teacher shamed us for lack of decorum and told us to sit down. Whatever happened, whenever it happened, it threatened one of our basic needs, which are, because we all have these basic needs, we have the needs of safety, security, and we have a need for belonging. Okay, these needs are biological and instinctual: safety, security, and belonging. And as children, we are completely dependent on our caregivers, right? We can't make it on our own. So if love will be withheld from us if we're not a certain way, or acceptance, or our teachers, or whatever, it's not okay to be who we are going to hide, repress, or disavow those parts that will threaten those needs from being met, right? But what happens to those rejected and disowned parts? They don't go away. It's in our unconscious. It's our shadow. And that shadow self can hurt us. It can hurt our relationships, and it impacts our life in all ways. Why? Because whatever qualities we deny in ourselves, we see in others. Okay, I repeat that. Whatever qualities we deny in ourselves, we see in others. And in psychology, that is called projection, right? We project onto others anything we bury within us. So for example, you get highly irritated when someone is rude for you. Well, it's a good bet you haven't owned your own rudeness. Thank you. This doesn't mean that the person isn't being rude to you. They are. But if rudeness wasn't in your shadow self, someone else's rudeness wouldn't bother you quite so much, right? And that's the key. How do we know when we're working with our shadow? Because that other person's behavior is really triggering you. They really get under your skin. They push your buttons. You're not just reacting, you're overreacting. And so when that happens, it's a sign that you're reacting strongly against a negative part of yourself you have disowned, you can't see, or you can't give yourself permission to be that. So it's not even so much about the other person, but they are reflecting a part of you that you can't accept. And you get very critical and you get very judgmental towards that person because you haven't been able to deal with this in your own psyche. And it's uncomfortable to come to terms with your disowned parts, which is why the ego spends so much energy in repressing them. So this process doesn't happen consciously. We're not aware of our projections, but it's what our ego does to defend itself, to defend how we perceive ourselves. So here again, this is like the distorted part of the self-perception theory, because our false identities of being good keeps us from connecting to our shadow, right? And so these projections, they distort reality and they create a boundary between how we view ourselves and how we behave in reality. So that's why, again, perception theory can only go so far, because if you can't see your own rude behavior, then you can't self-identify as a rude person, right? So you've probably heard the term trigger. We overreact when we triggered, right? We say or do things to that person, and guess what? Now we're triggering their hot buttons as well. And now you have this downward spiral of negative energy, trigger on trigger. Well, it's the same thing with projection on projection. I'm not doing that. You're doing that. No, you're doing that. And ties you up in knots. And so I have a slide that shows what projection on projection looks like. So the next slide. And you see, it's like, you see how you're just like twisted up in knots. It doesn't lead to anything. And the pointing of fingers. So my mom, she has this saying that she loves to quote all the time. She says, when you point a finger at someone, you have three fingers pointing back at you, right? So that's a great lead in to where I want to go with this little encounter with our shadow self. And by the way, I'm going to, the last slide is going to have a link both to Johari's window and also a great link for working on shadow work if you want to take a deep dive into this, which I really recommend. But for now, for this webinar, and also personally, this is what I do all the time. This is like my quick and dirty little technique that I do all the time. And so I just, I see that we're running short on time, so I just want to get right to it. But shadow work, you have to make friends with yourself. You have to be very heart-centered and be open to it, because as Jung says, we all have a shadow. Everyone is in the soup, together. So if you think of somebody whose behavior has been very painful or conflictual or inexplicable for you, there is a slide that has a chart of negative attributes. I don't know that we really need that. Okay, you can look at it. I just know that the things that get me all the time, or when I identify as like somebody's like being really hurtful to me, and it hurts me so much because I've been so good to that person. I've been so generous. I've been so kind or whatever. And this is the way they're acting. They're ungrateful, or they're entitled, or they're being like self-absorbed. And I don't see, ungrateful or entitled or self-absorbed like it's one of these things. So maybe this chart will help you, but maybe not. But there's a saying, if you spot it, you got it. So if I have this attribute as ungrateful, I'm going to take this word ungrateful and I'm going to put it in that box. Let's say like unknown. But I'm just not going to say the word ungrateful or entitled or self-absorbed. I'm going to put a question mark after that word. I'm not saying that I'm ungrateful. I'm saying like, am I ungrateful? Are there things about me that how is my gratitude lately? Okay, maybe I don't act like this person, but how am I showing up in my gratitude? How am I at, how is my entitlement? How have I been self-focused? Am I other focused? Like whatever I say about this person, like own it in a way as a discovery to look, where do I have this going on inside me? Right? Where am I not owning my own lack of gratitude? Have I been showing respect for those who should feel loved and respected and appreciated by me? right? There's a saying, what if you woke up tomorrow only with the things you said thank you for today, right? How has my gratitude been? So again, these negative qualities describe somebody else, but it describes me. As you can see, this great quote, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. And who else said this? Nathan the prophet with David Amelech, King David. Uh, we're not quite there yet. Just give me a few more minutes. So even shadow work is Torah based because there's the famous story when, after David takes Bathsheba as his wife, and Nathan the prophet comes to him and says, there's a story, there's a very, very wealthy man. He has many, many sheep. There's a poor man. He has one sheep and he loves the sheep. He sleeps with the sheep. He feeds the sheep, whatever. And the wealthy man took and slaughtered the one sheep, of this poor man instead of, one of his own sheep. What should be done with a man like that? King David flies into rage. He says, this man should be killed. And Nathan the prophet says, yeah, atah ha'ish, like, you're the man. Okay, you're the man. So even shadow work is Torah based. Now, King David didn't kill the messenger because he understood the messenger was from God. He also didn't beat himself up. He didn't say that I don't deserve to be king. He understood he needs to do some soul work, right? Remember, we're all this human soup together. So our messengers, may be from God because we need some soul work, but they're not prophets. They were imperfect and flawed humans, just like all of us. So when I see what I see in you, I see I had that going on too, just like you. We may act differently, but we're both challenged. We're both possibly struggling and have blind spots that are similar. So maybe I should have some self-compassion, but maybe I can have compassion for you also because you're unaware of your shadow self, right? So bring a little self-compassion and compassion for the other person. So now what are my choices? Well, go back into your open areas, your strengths. So for me, love of learning, I may not like it, but I can approach this as a learning experience. What is this person or situation trying to tell me or teach me? Have I even tried to understand them? Have I tried to learn what's going on for them? Or what if I take some of my kindness? Now, what if I put that into the situation? Is there a place for kindness, even towards somebody who's hurting me? Can I use kindness to help me become more grateful and more other focused? See, this is the growth process. So you've just come through this intense personal collective looking in and bearing of our soul with the Jewish holidays. Okay, Teshuvah, which we translate as repentance, really means to turn. We turn towards, to repair our relationships and to restore our connections with others, with ourselves, and with God. And it's not just for the holidays, because people in situations will challenge you every day. Like, that's a good thing because they're your mirror, they're your teachers if you let them. You may not be able to fix them. Correction, you are not going to be able to fix them, but you can use the conflict to work on yourself. And chances are, if anything will change the dynamic in your relationship, that will be the key. So I'm going to end with wishing you actually a good Rosh Chodesh. Today is the second day of Rosh Chodesh. It is the month of Cheshvan, the beginning of the month of Cheshvan, and we call it Mar Cheshvan. Mar Cheshvan means bitter. It's the bitterness of Mar Cheshvan. Why is this month a bitter month? Because there were no holidays this month. But I mean, why is that bitter? Like, after a month of Jewish holidays, like where I ate, past tense, and believe me, it's going to be future tense also. It was like Thanksgiving, like twice a day, day after day. And it's not just apples and honey, it's challah dipped in honey, sweet bread, sweet white bread dipped in honey, day after day after day. Like, the glycemic index of that is like unbelievable, right? So you can imagine if we had Hanukkah this month, we had to follow that with latkes and jelly donuts, like we would explode, right? So it's not just a bitter month, it's a quiet month. It's a month of reflection. We've just gone through the holidays. We've gone through, like, hopefully it was like a big and powerful experience. So it's a quiet month to reflect, to consolidate, to really think. And it's the beginning of the year where we're starting the Torah over again. We're starting a new year. So it's time really to use this like, take a breath, take a heart-centered breath of gratitude and realize we are taking a journey. So who do we want to be on this journey ahead? So the journey of Torah, which is the journey of living, it's really the journey of self-discovery. So who are you? Who do you choose to be, and who can you be? So there are many aspects of you, but there is only one you. And now we can load the slide with one of my favorite quotes by Oscar Wilde, there's only one Oscar Wilde, and that slide, who says, be yourself, everyone else is taken. So, okay, 1 o'clock. I did it.
Wonderful. Wow, that was amazing.
Somebody has a raised hand. Okay, Elizabeth.
Yeah, but let's just hang on 1 second.
Oh boy.
Not quite sure.
Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I don't know how to. Oh boy.
Hang on.
God.
I'm gonna
You need to mute. You have to
I'm
mute.
gonna end this call, everybody.
Mute yourself.
Say goodbye. Hang on. Okay. Is that better?
The greeting
Wait, I
is to
think
have
you're
a good winter. She's muted.
okay. All right. So we have a few things. Hannah, you're muted. Just
Okay.
unmute yourself.
All right,
Hannah,
that's perfect.
unmute yourself.
Perfect. Okay.
Sorry about that, everyone.
No, who
Not
am I in
quite
the
sure.
presence of this? Whatever. It's like, okay,
It's
obviously, wake up,
best
wake up, wake up, wake up.
Yeah, it's best, everyone, if you put your questions in the chat, because sometimes that happens, especially. The greeting is to have a good winter, said Lisa. The greeting is that true in the Jewish? Is that what you meant?
Kodesh Tov.
Lisa?
Kodesh Tov. Have a good
After
one.
after the holidays, after all of the holidays, we finish with Simchat Torah. The greeting is to have a good winter, because the next holiday we celebrate is Hanukkah.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. Thank you for that share. Also, Ellen had a question. She said, I'm a little confused. I'm a nice person, but other people aren't nice to me. So
something to
you know what?
This is
We'll have to have you back, Hannah, because talking about the shadow is, we were talking about it on Tuesday, if anybody was there for the positive psychology hour with, in relationship to body image and the negativity bias. It's very interrelated, Hannah. When we define who we are, and if we think of ourselves as somebody that's worthy of taking care of and loving, then our behavior is different, right? So this was such a perfect conversation to have both of those and engaged. And I thank you so much. We are at 1 o'clock. I don't want to keep anybody, but I want to thank you and just say, Hannah, we have to have you come back.
I'd love to. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
We'll
so
talk
much.
about
Thank you for letting me share
the
this.
shadow. And I especially liked your gift to all of us about your definition of marriage, a gradual unfolding of one soul to another over the course of a lifetime. Beautiful. Thank you. May we all, I can say that is friendship as well and connection. And I thank you for sharing that with us and leaving us with that. As Chris Peterson used to say, other people are important, right? Right? It's our relationships that are important. So, and Chris Peterson and Marty Seligman were studying the VIA strengths and the values, and that's in action, as Hannah mentioned, that you can take that incredible survey and how do we live into our values? How do we live into what is most strong about us? And then, as you said so beautifully, manage our ego and our shadow self with loving kindness with what's strong versus what's wrong, right? Because we get to be human.
Right. You know what I forgot? There is one slide at the very end that has the 2 links to the website, or just Google Yohari's Window, Yohari, Yohari's Window. You'll have things pop up, and shadow work. If you see something by Scott Jeffries, I like his work a lot. So
beautiful. And, Hannah will be the first guest on the Positive Psychology book club. That's going to be an exploration of Donna's book, where there'll be many authors, and that's going to start at 7 o'clock. And you can there's an access to that in the chat. We'll also let you know about that in the recording when we send it out to you in the recap email that'll go out tomorrow. Thank you, everyone. So good to have you back. Right. And it's so good to have the Positive Psychology Hour back after the holidays. And Happy New Year to everyone. Shana Tova. And we will see you next week. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Bye everybody.
Aye.